Hi, this is Fezog Inigu Namesay, and what I'm about to talk about is, I think, part of the rapture and part of the spirit of the Antichrist, and has to do with me and my equivalency to my birth date and the specs chart that I fall under. Um, my real name is Joseph Eugene Eastman. I'm born in September on the 17th, and I'm born in 1978. And I was born in Anacortes, Washington. And I have my when you add up my name and numbers, my birth date numbers, my weight and numbers, and stuff like that, you get 55, number 55, which you can trace that from the planets, the solar system, out to whatever planet or whatever moon that falls on. Find out what it has to do astrologically. But the story is I used to work for an excavation outfit on Orcas Island, and I was mentally harassed and verbally assaulted by him. And I used to be, when I was younger back then, I used to be a drug addict to some extent. I used to do some methamphetamines with my friends and got high and liked adrenaline. And but I quit doing those drugs. I did some of those drugs while I worked for this outfit, but to say I wasn't probably the only one that was doing drugs. I'm sure there were people that worked there that did drugs. But anyways, I quit doing the drugs like 3 or 4 months before I got fired. I got fired a long time ago, like in 2003 or something, and so I got fired, and I thought when I got fired that they had mind washed me or drugged me or something, because when I left, like the day I got fired, I was driving away with my brother in his Dodge truck, and I saw like this white light over the horizon, and I thought I was going to like the afterlife because my body was in a state of shock and numbness, and I couldn't recollect who I was really at the time. I didn't know what was happening. It was just a state of numbness and of holiness to some extent, because I saw the white light. But I didn't pass on that day, and then I had some weird events that happened, some demonic events and some spiritual events where I was at my my apartment, and I was collapsing. I had some sort of depression and anxiety issue from being fired and thinking that they drugged me or mind washed me. I had so much, it was all just chaotic. I was in the kitchen, and I was thinking someone put something in my milk to poison me or something, because I was having so many hallucinations and numbness in my body and brain and body, and everything was just feeling so weird that I didn't know what happened. So I remember I grabbed a plate out of the kitchen, and I had so much tension that I snapped the porcelain plate or ceramic plate in half with just my hands, which is pretty hard to do. And then I fell over, and I just blacked out, and I fell over, and I hit my head and went into some exonerations. And that was the beginning of my collapsing type incidences that happened when I collapsed. So I got up from the collapse. Right, I woke up, and I guess I was blacked out for like 3 minutes, and Sarah woke me up, my girlfriend, and the ambulance showed up, and I went to the hospital, and they gave me an IV with just some water in it to hydrate my body. I guess I was dehydrated, which now thinking back, I was dehydrated a lot because I wasn't drinking enough liquid, but it felt good when they hydrated my body. And then I came back home, and then this is where it all the spiritual um, medium type world comes in, where the mediums are and the spiritualness. I started feeling fainty and foggy and like I was gonna pass on again, and I had enough of it. I was just so tired of everything being so weird and so gravely that I went and laid down on the couch, and I crossed my hands like this as I laid on the couch, and I told God I was ready to go because I'd had enough. And sure and behold, a couple minutes later, I was laying there on the couch, closing my eyes like I had coins on my eyes, like I was ready to go. And then I heard a loud clunk outside on the window. And wondering what that is, it was something. I got up. I had enough energy to get up off the couch, and I stumbled and walked my way outside. And lo and behold, I found a falcon laying on the ground next to the window that it flew into, pulverized by flying into the window. And my bird of worship ever since I was a little boy, I used to read Lords of Prey, which is an old book about avian type animals. And this was a peregrine falcon, so I picked it up, and it was all boggled by hitting its head on the window. And then I looked off because I was all fainty and was ready to go to the other side, and I was in this medium type world that I saw this ghost off in the gravel, this woman ghost, and she just stayed there and just stared at me with this bedazzled look on her face, like a smile and a frown at the same time. That was just so odd that it just bedazzles you and you don't know what to think. And then at the same time, I heard Native Americans chanting off in the woods, a couple 100 feet away off in the woods with drums pounding. And then I saw a spirit shoot up into the sky and leave and go into the sky and fly off. But the ghost woman and the natives lasted for about 5 or 7 seconds. And then they vanished off. And I was still there holding the falcon, and I looked at the falcon in my hands, and I locked eyes with it, and our eyes were shaking like this. My eyes were too, because I thought I was getting ready to pass on, and I was in a state of stress and anxiety that we looked at each other and we locked eyes, and we had some sort of correlation and recollection that I think God sent the falcon to give me another chance and tell me that he was still with me. And I held the falcon, and we both came out of our concussion, and we locked eyes, and then it regained some of its strength, and I sat there, and then for about 5 minutes or so, I held the falcon, and we looked at each other, and I petted it on its back and comforted it. And I put my hands up in the air, and I let it go in the air, and it flew over to a branch on a cedar tree about 20 feet away, and it sit and perched on that branch for about 20 minutes and just sat there and stared at me for about 20 minutes, and I stared at it, and I just sat there and looked at it and was wondering why I was still alive. And so that happened. Then the falcon, after 20 minutes, it flew off, and it flew north, and then it left. And that was the end of those. That was the end of that first. That was the first spiritual, mediumic world type event that I had. That was symbolic to me in a lot of ways, and has to do with other things. The falcon being the entry that came in, and the ghosts and the natives, and the spirit that went off into the sky was the other entries. So then I came in, and I knew that I had some extra strength, I had some spiritual empowerment given to me by that event, and I started drinking water and got hydrated, and still having a lot of problems. And my girlfriend was living there with me. She wasn't there when this happened, but she lived there with me. And so then she came home, and I decided to go over to my dad's and stay for a few days. And I went to my dad's house, which is on this island here in there in the, not here, but there in the Puget Sound. Orcas Island is where it is. And I went to my dad's house, and this is where the oddest hysteria type things happen. I was tripping out, and I wasn't on any drugs. I quit doing the drugs a while back, and I wasn't on any medication, but I was tripping out big time, hallucinating and just seeing extraterrestrials and demons and stuff. And I was in my dad's house, and I was out on the porch, and my stepmom, who lives with my dad, has all these clay potters that are like rabbits and animals and stuff. And I was tripping out on this rabbit's eye. That was this pot holder that was shaped like a rabbit. I was tripping out on its eye, staring at it like I was in Alice in Wonderland or Wonderland or something. And then I heard a voice in the sky says, it opened a portal, said Joseph, send portal, and then it opened a portal, and then all of these demons came out of the sky and fell onto the housetop at night. Then time went on, and it became night, and I went inside, and I remember the portal opened in the day, but later that night, the demons came out of the portal and went on the rooftop of my dad's house. My dad and stepmom were in their room, but they couldn't hear anything because it was a spiritual, chaotic hysteria type thing. And the demons were making noises on the rooftop and haunting me and terrorizing me. And I saw these three Nazi pigmen also that were resemblance of the company I worked for, used to harass me and stuff. And all this shit happened. And the next day, I didn't sleep. I didn't sleep for a few days, and I was seeing demons and extraterrestrials and shit. I got up, walked outside, and I ate a black ant that was on my dad's deck, the porch to his house. And I ate this ant, and I actually saw it inside my head in an oracle type way. I saw it in this weird skew light of some pigment of light. And I was wondering why it was so significant, but I think it had to do with the Antichrist. It was an ant, and I was born in Anacortes, Washington, and so what so have you. And if there's any correlation, I don't know. And so then I walked inside, and I couldn't sleep. I hadn't slept in a few days, and I was watching this jewelry show, and I started hearing either the spirits of my father or God and his wife, I had a vision where God, she said to use a purple sapphire. The woman's voice said, this is just sort of odd, I just throw it in because it happened, but I don't know how to explain it. But she said use a purple sapphire. Then I saw a picture of God with a baby in its hands, and I thought it was me in God's hands. And then I saw an airplane, and then I was thinking about 9/11 at the time, because this was in 2003 and or so. But I thought that since I was an 11-pound baby and I was born in September, September's the 9th month, and from the Virgo constellation, I thought that I was born in September, and that 11-pound baby is what I am. So 9/11, there was some sort of propheticness with 9/11. And maybe 9/11 has something to do with the entry of the Antichrist and what it means. It's something that I'm a part of. But then that left, and then I calmed down and didn't sleep, and then I needed a whole bunch of help. And then I went to my brother's house and tripped out and saw extraterrestrials and didn't sleep, and saw a fire pit light up and saw some demons. It was still in hysteria, and rode a wheel over to my nephews at my brother's house. Now this is still on Orcas Island. And I rode a wheel to my nephews to tell them that they could be my princes, and I leave my goodwill to them. And I was seeing demons this whole time, demons and sometimes gods, and maybe some angels, but extraterrestrials, which I don't really believe in too much. But all this was happening. And so then I got my girlfriend together, and I had some money saved up from when I worked for that excavation outfit that harassed me and verbally assaulted me there. And if anyone could ever master consciousness, they would know that those men are probably faulty of everything they did, but at that excavation outfit. But we don't have technology to study consciousness that much. But so I got with Sarah and I moved to Seattle, and I got a job with the landscaping outfit and rented a townhouse and had a couple of real hysteric events happen while I was in Seattle and at that company. Came back home, figured it was time to break up with Sarah because I needed to go back home to my mom's house in the Palouse and get some mental help and maybe get a doctor. Get a doctor and find out if I'm schizophrenic. So I gave Sarah a couple $1,000, got my truck and moved back to the rolling wheat hills of the Palouse there around Moscow, Idaho, and Pullman, Washington, in the Palouse. And then I rested for a couple years just taking medicine. I started seeing a doctor, a psychiatrist, and got on Zyprexa or whatever, and went to college, community college, a really kind of cheesy community college, and made the dean's list and worked in the mathematics department. And learned how to sleep somewhat, and got some help. And went to college, and calmed down. Then my parents were moving over to Moscow, Idaho, which is right next door to Pullman, Washington. We moved to Moscow, and I got a job working for CSI Locating, which is a utility locating outfit business that was based out of Miami, Florida, and came up to this area to locate Verizon phone lines. So I got a truck and I started locating lines, and everything was cool, and I had a good time with it at first. And then during these durations, and I think what is the spirit of the Antichrist, which is part to do with all this hysteria and everything, and I think it looks for individuals who are hurting and in psychotic ways to feed on the psychoticness of individuals who are being tormented. The Antichrist really does. And I went down to La Grande, Oregon, and this is the weirdest thing that ever could have happened, but in La Grande, Oregon, I got pulled over by a cop on my way down there because we have laptops in the computer that show us the maps and the locations of where we need to locate the utilities, and I got pulled over by a cop and he let me go. But I got down to La Grande, Oregon, and I was tripping out, just starting to feel a little weird, a little uneasy, and then things started going crazy again. The hysteria and the craziness came back, and I saw Neo, or Keanu Reeves, who played Neo, drop out of the sky when I was working for what, if he's a Neo, if it means a neocon, if it's a neocon type movie, if it, the big screen has something to do with the Antichrist, or if it's all part of the Western Illuminati, it's all correlated in there to a breakaway civilization or a world power. If it's people are purposely doing this to be evil, then I guess that's what they are doing. But when they use big screen TVs, which people stare at and they watch these movies and what so have you, that's what it is. But then in the bedroom later that night, Neo dropped, and then I kept doing my tickets, but it was all weird and hysterical and psychotic. I went to my motel room there in La Grande, Oregon later that night because I lived up in Pullman, but I was down there locating tickets, and I went to the motel room, and in the motel room I saw Osiris in a hallucination or a vision. It was a green man with a white hat and a white robe. It looked like the Egyptian Osiris, and I was so hysteric and hallucinated and visionic that I lay down on the bed, and I felt like I was being crucified or burnt alive on the bed, and I heard like millions and millions of women moaning and groaning. All my body or nervous system is in a state of shock, and I'm just vibrating and being tortured by this crucifixion that Osiris had something to do with it. And so, but I lived it, and the next day I left and I went back to Moscow, and I got back and quit my job because I couldn't deal with that shit no more. And quit my job, and then I got over that, and I just got back on my medication and stayed home for a few years, and became a music rapper, an artist, rap artist, and made a group called Numerology, which is on Reverb. www.numerologic Incorporated. www.reverb/Mossberg or whatever, Numerologic Incorporated on Reverb. You'll find it. It's just evil music. Somehow I think from all the stuff that happened to me, I was seduced and taken by the Antichrist spirit and put into evil, whether I knew it or not. I think it has to do with my birth chart, where I'm born, and my name. My name has 19 letters. It doesn't have 18 like Barack Obama's, but it has 19. But I was born in Ant to Cordis, to do with the ant, and I was born from a Virgo, and I'm an 11-pound baby. That's to do with 9/11. I think symbolically and numberly and wordly, I'm just so bought into the Antichrist type thing that I'm learning to get out of it. But I moved back there and I got into the rap group, and then I ended the rap group and I started meditating and praying to I am that I am, or on Aquias, Eon Aquias, which is the ancient tongue that means I am that I am, or just means I am, the God, the creator I am, or whoever he be. And this was all during the time of the Tetrad moons, which I was part of. Because instead of buying that purple sapphire that I was told to buy there in Orcus at my dad's house where I was having problems, I bought a blue amethyst and I buried it the night before the Tetrad moon came to charge it on, because they get amethysts get charged by moons. So I charged it with the Tetrad moon out of all moons to find out what sort of charge. I still got it. Since the moons are over, I feel like the evil's left. And that is my amethyst right there. And I got a mahogany, and then I got a cross. Sort of my talisman type. But I was meditating on the during the Tetrad moons into the eternal Om, and meditating to I am, and the Holy Trinity, and Jesus, the Father, and the Holy Spirit. And I was making good moves, and I was getting blessings and seeing cool meditative visions of cool things that I liked. And I became close with Jehovah, I am, and things were good. And then I met this girl who is a witch. I got feeling so healthy and so strong that I was kind of on the hunt for a pussy. And out of all girls, I met this girl who was a witch, who kind of seduced me and was telling me to go off my meds. And I did go off my meds, and I was just in lust for like sex, and I was boning this witch. And she had witch books and everything. She told me she was a witch, and she actually told me, which was the weirdest thing, she told me I was Osiris. When I was intimate with her, she told me I was Osiris, and this was weird because down on the Quran I saw Osiris and the crucified thing that up and down there. It was all weird. But she sort of played me. We had our little get together thing and whatever, and she left. And then the next morning, a couple of days after she left, the next morning I woke up. Right when I woke up, I heard I had some sort of STD, and I just said, "How on God's green earth?" because I had that. And so I was so evil hit me so fast after she left, because she was a witch and stuff, that I prophesied in the Bible that I could cure the STD with 3 people. And after that, I just got sort of taken by evil, and evil consumed me, and her evil consumed me, her witchcraft consumed me. And it consumed me. And this was all during the Tetrad moons, and I felt like I was being done by witchcraft, and I felt sort of cursed by these powers and this person and stuff. And I got into I went off my meds because she convinced this girl who's a witch, convinced me to go off my meds, and I did. And I went back to being hysteric and psychotic. And I went into my mom's house later that one of these other days, and I baptized a Bible. I wrote in a Bible, then I baptized a Bible, and I was just doing hysteric things, and I was just putting myself in more evil and the wrong direction. That I opened this evil spirit, I think it was Satan, came into my life and consumed me totally for a while during the moons. And then when Satan came into my life and consumed that part of it, then all the Antichrist and all the evil people were also a part of that. I started seeing them in visions, and they came to me, and I was seeing their prayers and their evil, disgusting things that they do and what they're about. And I learned a lot about what was going on, and learned a lot about the Illuminati, how they work with that, and mafias and stuff like that are built on evil that do things, and that's what it's all about. Those mafias, Illuminatis, Satanic churches, and Antichrist and Satan all go together, and it's just a conglomeration of mafias who are thieves and killers, and Illuminati, which is using tricks to brainwash people to make them think things, and using technology or whatever to make people think things, and to allow things to happen is what it does. And it can hide things too. And then the Antichrist, who I think might be Obama or the Pope, they come in and they have their roles, and even the Holy Roman Empire is evil. And then Satan, of course, he's really the lesser of the evil. Satan is always Satan. He doesn't. It's something that's more. Satan's more natural than these other things, to me, anyway. I'd rather deal with Satan than deal with the Antichrist, the Holy Roman Empire, the Illuminati, and the Mafia. Because when you deal with Satan, you can also deal with God, and God will be a fact of dualism and make that sort of level that out until Satan gets tired of bothering you. Then God will always win. God will always win in the ultimatum. But I went off my meds, and then the Tetrad moon's coming, and I got sort of better. I was at the swimming pool once, and I heard Yahshua, and I was praying to Jesus, and I had a lot of relationship to a lot of Egyptian type stuff that might be myth, or what part it has in all this, I don't know, but pharaohs and making apparitions walk towards you and stuff, and I just been through so much torture and hell bent type stuff that it's the fact that I'm doing so well is just a good thing. But these things are all correlated, and the fact, and also when I worked for sorry, I forgot to tell you about the horse. There was a pale horse that when I worked for CSI locating back towards like the LeGrand thing, I was out on a job site, and a pale horse told me to come to it and walk up to it. So I walked. I was in the on the ranch there by the horse, and I walked up to the horse. I walked up to it, and there was a loud voice that said, "Come to me," and it came from the horse. So I walked up to the horse, and it put its head on my head and rested it there for a little while, and then I walked off, and I felt sort of spiritually empowered by the horse, and it was a pale horse. And then I left, and I had some sort of relationship with horses for a while, or some horses in particular. And then I also was at another job site, and two white pigeons came to me. I was sitting in the dirt, and this is kind of on the out acreage of this town, and where I'm from, white pigeons just don't come up to you and walk to you. So it's sort of a spiritual thing that these two white pigeons, they did have leg clamps on them, leg signatures or whatever they had. They were owned, or they'd previously been owned by someone, but they came up and they started walking around me, and almost I could touch them. And they came up to me and they were walking around me, these two white pigeons. And this also happened while I worked for CSI Locating. So there were so many pale, like, events, spiritual events that happened, and I'm just wondering. And then I started hearing a lot of sacrilege type stuff and sack lamb type stuff, wondering who was the sack lamb and wondering what it's about. And considering everything that happened and everything that I just talked about and everything that I've done, and it seems that I get a lot of help when I pray to Horus and Geb and stuff like that. And so there, I've told you who I think is the. I know that my birthplace and my name and my stuff is symbolic of, maybe symbolic of the Antichrist, but I don't want any part of it, and I don't want to be a part of it at all. And I've had my my computer name is something 44, and I'm 37 years old, and in Rapture in 7 years from 2015 or 2016, there'll be some sort of event happening in 7 years. It says in the Bible, and in 7 years I'll be 44, which is like, has to do with a password on my computer that I've always had. So when I'm 44, I think something's going to happen. I'm 37 now, so let's see, 16, 17, 19, 20. In 2023, I'm prophesying something weird or odd or evil is going to happen in 2023, because it says it in Rapture. I'm not prophesying. I think Rapture does prophesy 2023, 23rd to the power. I'm not putting it to power, but I have a number system that I know about, that I've learned about, but I don't put anything to powers yet, but powers have a lot to do with it, like mathematical powers. One, I always do plus or minus one from every number, because there's only one God. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, and 23. Those are the numbers almost 1 through 23 are the numbers I use. And from each number you can plus or minus 1. Like if you have 5, plus or minus 1 would give you 4 or 6. And you'll have to determine, there's always a fact of dualism in Christianity, because there's always, it's like the yin and there's a dark and there's a white, there's a good and there's a bad, there's always a dualism, there's always one God, and it's always a tug-of-war type war that's going on between these. So we're sort of a third party, and we need to be careful where we give our consent and what so have you. So I use those number systems, and I've learned things like the string theory has 11 dimensions. 11 is kind of a good number, a kind of immediate medium type number. The Kabbalah tree has 11 parts to it, and the Tetragrammatron, if you look at it three-dimensionally, are two pyramids, which each pyramid has 5 points. They're intertwined, so you get 10 points, where they intersect is 1 point. So a Tetragrammatron could be 11 points. Where they intersect, there's always the intersection is what it's about, and it seems to be this number 11 that when you get in, there's always 33-degree Masons. Like, so I just performed something that equals 33 religiously, or what it is, and it is just religion, but I think it's prophetic because of the Tetrad moons and everything that happened, and just who I am, why these events happen. And so I got my number system, and then you get word. And I found out there's a Satanic language that says things backwards, and then it gets into saying things other ways that some people know how to speak, which you shouldn't even speak, is sort of a Satanic language that I've spoken before. And there's other powers out there that live, and this is scary times. And I studied Moab. The return of Moab would bring the return of Christ. And I'm an 11-pound baby, and my name is Joseph. My real name is Joseph, and I already told you my spec chart. And I'm related to, like in the book of the Quran, there's the book of Joseph, which has the 11 stars. And even in the Bible, Joseph and his 11 things. So I'm just wondering, the fact that I'm an 11-pound baby, but there's always continuations and things that set you different than from other people, or make it so you're not the perfect person to fall in those specs. But I have a new Bible at Nude, and so those are the events that happened from Orcas Island, where that all happened, to these spiritual events, to actually being crucified in a room with Osiris, to being called Osiris, and then I worked with the god, the cream of the crop is I worked with the god Amun-Ra or Amun-Re for a while, and he told me that I was a Messiah, or was he telling me that he was a Messiah? He said Messiah, and I wasn't sure if it was Ra, if it was him being the Messiah, or if it was me being the Messiah. But take it as you want, and these are just parts of my rapture, and we'll see what happens as the years pass and the days pass. But I've been put on in the past onto the moon calendar, the lunar calendar. It works. I'm trying to break out of a synchronicity and a durational period that I don't like, that I want out of. I don't really like the lunar calendar that much. And when Easter came, this last Easter, I had a blessing from Jesus, and I prayed when on Easter, and God bless Jesus and God bless you. Thanks, but